that obviously I'm looking at this within a spiritual context. So the way I will talk about these relationships is from a perspective of, no, Mkulu Jehuti, I know you guys are good. Ketumetsi, how are you? You guys, you've been making me jealous with all your pictures of Durban and stuff. No, it's okay. I don't hate you. No hate here, but I'm just saying, I've been feeling some type of way. I feel like I missed out on a whole lot. So, Queen Trisha Togoza, I think there are enough of us for us to start. So, here's the thing. So somebody had asked after the last video or live that I did, and I did that on YouTube, I believe, talking about conflict resolution in relationships and the things that, to look out for in terms of how do you resolve a conflict when you're in a relationship with someone. And also just what could be the reasons that prevent people from going down the road of trying to find a way of amicably resolving differences, right? So I thought, since there's this cry for the different types of relationship, it does tie into your ability to resolve conflict within relationships based on the relationship type and what that relationship is supposed to be in your life. We all know that most relationships are very difficult, right? Most relationships are very difficult. And there's a reason for this. And I think we talked about how in the last video, we did discuss the issue of values, right? We talked about values and who are you getting into relationship with, and do you share the same values? Do you have the same values in common? And I mean, that's a really important thing. But I think another thing too also is, especially as spiritual people, and whether you acknowledge that you're spiritual or not is neither here nor there. Fact is, you are spiritual because we are spirit first before we incarnate this human flesh. Now, whether you acknowledge that or not, that's entirely up to you. And whether that becomes anything that features in how you choose to live your life, that's also entirely up to you. But the fact is, we are spirit beings, right? You were umoya first before you incarnated into this realm to take on this physical manifestation at this particular time, place, geographical setting. Sorry about that. It looks like we're having a storm coming soon, so I'm going to try to make this quick because we might lose power, which we have in the past when there's been a storm. So I think the first thing to do is, let's start with a relationship that I think a lot of people talk about, which is the relationship of a soulmate, right? You hear, oh, I've met my soulmate. What is this relationship, right? So a soulmate is somebody who you might meet and you have that immediate connection with this person, right? There's obviously a certain amount of chemistry that goes on with this person because the chemistry that goes on with this person is the basis for which you will sit and start having a conversation, exchange numbers, start talking to each other. You're not necessarily similar to this person. Sometimes you're very, very different from your soulmate. It is also not this kind of passionate relationship where, you know how it is for a lot of people when they get into a relationship, there is a period where you're literally obsessed. You're literally obsessed with the person you're in relationship with. You feel brand new. And you can't sleep, you can't eat. Some people lose weight when they go into their relationships. I'll describe that relationship just now, but this is not that sort of a relationship. This relationship has a sort of quiet calm about it. And I'm going to say this because it's very important. For people who are addicted to the giddy feeling of falling in love, they might actually miss their soul connection because it feels boring. Are you hearing me? Because there are people who are addicted to that feeling of being in love, where you're obsessed with someone, where you can't sleep, where you'd give this person your heart or your kidney or a lung if they asked for it, that sort of thing, right? So you may miss your soul connection because you're one of these addicts to that giddy feeling of falling in love. That giddiness and that whole falling in love, which is where the chemistry comes in, is necessary to initiate. It's like the spark that's necessary to initiate the life of this relationship. I always think of it as tar. You know, for those who are in chemetic science, tar being the spark that started the creation of life, right? So that is that thing. That is that chemistry, right? It's necessary to start that relationship. The problem with a lot of people is that these are your love addicts. When that spark eventually becomes a sort of quiet fire, I'm bored. Because you're addicted to the giddy feeling of falling in love. Look, this is not to judge, but actually it's what teenagers go for when they go in a relationship. And when that's not there, teenagers run. As adults who are awakened and conscious, you really want to be looking more than just that. And if you're bored, but everything else is going well in that relationship, and you decide to end that relationship because you're bored, you have a serious problem. Go find yourself a hobby. But that's your soulmate, right? So your soulmate is this person you have a connection with, their chemistry is there, you start talking, the relationship is not hard. The relationship is not a difficult relationship in so many ways. There is a certain understanding and an ability to communicate with one another. If there are issues, the ability to communicate is easy. Please note that I'm talking about these relationships from a healed person's perspective, right? So it's an easygoing relationship. However, there's a caveat with the soulmate relationship, and that caveat is this. Soulmates, in that soulmate connection, there is a tendency of one to start taking the other for granted, meaning the relationship becomes predictable, which is good in so many ways too. And I'll say why. Especially when it comes to raising kids. You need stability, consistency, and predictability if it is a relationship from which children are now born. So, for example, you and said partner get to a stage where you feel that the connection is stable, you feel you've laid